When bureaucracy meets Deathworld, director Keth9 prided himself on efficiency. In his 300 years of service to the Thylorian Empire's Colonial Expansion Department, he had never missed a quarterly report or filed an incomplete survey. His pristine record made the discovery even more exciting. "Sir, you need to see this," his assistant Vex-12 announced, her crystalline form shimmering with excitement. She projected a holographic display showing a blue and green world orbiting a yellow star. System designation Sol 3. It's been sitting in our uncategorized files for cycles. Keth9 adjusted his biosuit and leaned forward. Specifications: perfect orbital distance, abundant water, oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, diverse biomes, and get this, Vex-12 paused dramatically. It's classified as Garden World Class 2, prime colonization material. The director's compound eyes widened. Garden worlds were rare treasures, planets so perfectly suited for life that colonization required minimal terraforming. Population status: inhabited by a single sapient species called humans. Primitive technology, no faster than light capability. The database shows them as docile herbivores living in harmony with their environment. Keth9 stood up, his exoskeleton clicking with excitement. Prepare a full colonization fleet. This is exactly what we need for the Peaceful Expansion Initiative. 50,000 colonists, agricultural specialists, and trade ambassadors. We'll establish a beautiful partnership with these humans. 3 months later, Fleet Commander Orcs gazed at the approaching blue world from the bridge of the colonization vessel, Harmony's Dawn. Unlike conquest fleets, his ships carried families, scientists, artists, and diplomats. The humans would surely welcome such cultured neighbors. Beginning atmospheric entry sequence, announced Navigation Officer Zel-4. All colonization pods are ready for deployment to the various continents. The first sign something was wrong came when their atmospheric readings started fluctuating wildly. "Commander," Zel-4's voice carried a note of confusion. "The atmospheric density is off the charts. These readings can't be correct." Grix watched through the viewport as their ships began to shake violently. Outside, he witnessed something impossible. Towering walls of gray vapor stretched from the surface to space itself, spinning with terrifying force. Lightning bolts the size of small moons crackled through the formations. "Sir, that's what the local database calls a hurricane," Science Officer Nella-7 reported, her voice trembling. "According to these readings, it's a Category 5 storm with winds exceeding 300 kilometers per hour. The humans consider this normal weather." "Normal?" Urix gripped his command chair as the ship lurched sideways. "Nothing about this is normal. What else does the database say?" Nella-7's tentacles worked frantically across her console. "Sir, I think there's been a terrible mistake. I'm accessing the full planetary classification system now." Her color changed from calm blue to alarmed orange. "Commander, Earth isn't classified as Garden World Class 2. The actual classification is Deathworld Class 15. The bridge fell silent except for the groaning of stressed hull plates. "Repeat that, officer." "Deathworld Class 15, sir. Extreme atmospheric violence, tectonic instability, electromagnetic storms, temperature variations from -80 to +60 degrees, gravity 1.3 times galactic standard, and..." She paused, reading further. "The oxygen concentration is so high it's technically a fire hazard. The atmosphere is described as corrosive to most life forms." Grix felt his breathing apparatus struggle to process this information. "How is this possible? The humans live here." "That's the most disturbing part, sir. According to the database, humans have adapted to thrive in all of Earth's biomes. They intentionally expose themselves to the star's harmful radiation for pleasure. They consume poisonous substances like alcohol and caffeine recreationally. And sir," Nella-7's voice dropped to a whisper, "they engage in combat sports for entertainment." The first colonization pods were already entering the atmosphere. Urix watched in horror as several were caught in wind shears and spun like toys. Emergency beacons began activating across the fleet as landing sites revealed their true nature. Colony Pod 7 reporting from coordinates 35.6762 degrees and 139.6503 degrees E crackled through the communication system. The ground is shaking violently. Seismic sensors indicate we've landed on an active tectonic plate. The humans here have built massive structures directly on top of it. But the most interesting report came from Australia. Dr. Chen. Colonel Rodriguez's voice carried a note of amazement. You need to hear this. The Thylaurian pod that landed near Alice Springs was rescued by a local cattle rancher. When asked how humans could survive in such a hostile environment, the rancher said, and I quote, "Hostile. Mate, this is just Tuesday." Zelt 4 listened to these reports with growing alarm. Your species treats lethal conditions as routine occurrences. Well, Sarah said thoughtfully, what seems lethal to you is just our normal environment. We evolved here, adapted to these conditions over millions of years. What you call a death world, we call home. Mike nodded, taking another sip of his coffee. Want to see something really scary? He pulled out his phone and showed Zelt 4 a video of humans surfing massive waves during a storm. This is what we do for fun. The aliens' color shifted through several hues Sarah hadn't seen before. Those humans are intentionally placing themselves in moving water formations that could destroy our largest vessels. For entertainment. That's just surfing, Sarah explained. Wait until you hear about skydiving, mountain climbing, or deep-sea diving. We intentionally put ourselves in extreme situations as recreation. Zelt 4 was quiet for a long moment. Then, hesitantly, it asked, your species engages in combat for sport as well, according to our database. Mike laughed. Boxing, wrestling, martial arts, football. Yeah, we're pretty competitive. But that's just how we play. Play, Zelt 4 repeated slowly. You engage in combat. As play. Over the following days, as rescue operations continued worldwide, a fascinating picture emerged. The Thylaurian colonial fleet hadn't come to conquer Earth. They had come because of a massive clerical error that classified Earth as a paradise world suitable for colonization. The reality was far different and far more impressive. Dr. Chen found herself serving as an unofficial ambassador as more Thylaurian survivors were brought to the temporary camps they'd established. Each alien she met shared the same amazement at human adaptability. They couldn't understand how humans had not only survived on Earth, but had thrived and developed complex civilizations. In our empire, explained Fleet Commander Urix during one of their conversations, we spend enormous resources terraforming worlds to make them habitable. We alter atmospheres, adjust gravity, moderate temperatures, yet you took a world that would kill most galactic species and made it into a garden through pure adaptation. Sarah considered this. We didn't make it into a garden. We learned to see the garden that was already here. Every challenge our world presented, we found a way to meet it. Extreme cold. We developed better clothing and heating. Extreme heat. We learned to find shade and conserve water. Dangerous animals. We either learned to avoid them or domesticated them. Domesticated them. Urix's translator carried a note of disbelief. Mike grinned and whistled. His border collie, Rex, came bounding over, tail wagging. This guy's ancestors were wolves. We turned apex predators into companions. Urix stared at the dog, then at Mike petting it casually. You took a carnivorous pack hunter and made it a member of your family. 15,000 years ago, yeah. We've also domesticated large herbivores for food and transportation, learned to cultivate plants that were originally poisonous, and built cities in deserts, jungles, mountains, and Arctic regions. If it exists on Earth, humans have probably figured out how to live there. The negotiations that followed were unlike anything in galactic history. Instead of conquest or surrender, they became a cultural exchange. The Thalorians offered advanced technology in exchange for the most valuable thing humans possessed: knowledge of how to survive in extreme conditions. Your species, Science Officer Nala 7 explained to Sarah, has solved problems that our greatest scientists consider impossible. You've learned to thrive with minimal resources, to adapt to any environment, to find opportunity in adversity. These are skills that could transform our empire. Sarah smiled. And in return, you're offering us the stars. That seems like a fair trade. The final moment that truly captured the essence of humanity came during the farewell ceremony. As the repaired Thalorian fleet prepared to leave, with human volunteers aboard to serve as survival consultants for future colonization efforts, a group of local children approached the alien visitors. Instead of being afraid, the children were fascinated. They showed the aliens their pets, their toys, and their games. One 8-year-old girl named Emma asked Zelf 4 if aliens had playgrounds on their worlds. Playgrounds? Zelf 4 asked. Orcs activated the fleet communications one more time. All colonial pods prepare for emergency evacuation. This is not a colonization mission anymore. This is a first contact scenario with a species that has somehow mastered survival in conditions that violate everything we know about habitable worlds. As the battered remnants of his colonization fleet struggled to maintain orbit, Orcs realized they weren't just dealing with a bureaucratic error. They had encountered something unprecedented in galactic history, a species so adapted to extreme conditions that they had turned a Deathworld into a garden through sheer determination and ingenuity. The humans below continued their rescue efforts, apparently unaware that they were casually demonstrating capabilities that terrified one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Welcome to Earth. Please don't die. Dr. Sarah Chen had seen many strange things in her 20 years as a marine biologist, but the crystalline beings struggling to breathe in the Pacific Northwest rain were definitely a first. The emergency call had come in at dawn. Unknown aircraft had crashed into the Olympic National Forest, and the occupants appeared to be in severe distress. Mike, hand me another emergency oxygen mask. She called to her partner, Ranger Mike Thompson, who was carefully approaching one of the aliens with what looked like a cross between a spacesuit and a terrarium. Doc, I've seen a lot of rescue situations, but never one where the victims are more scared of the rain than their injuries. Mike replied, his weathered face creased with concern. The alien he was approaching had all 6 of its limbs wrapped around what appeared to be a breathing apparatus, its large eyes wide with terror. Sarah knelt beside the nearest alien, moving slowly to avoid causing panic. Through the creature's transparent biosuit, she could see its skin shifting through different colors, none of them looking particularly healthy. "It's okay," she said softly. "We're here to help." The alien's translator device crackled to life. "The atmospheric moisture. It burns. How do you survive the acid rain?" Sarah and Mike exchanged glances. Acid rain. Sarah tested a drop on her finger. "This is just regular water vapor. Phi is about 6.5. Perfectly normal." She watched the alien's color shift to what she was beginning to recognize as confusion. "Where are you from? That normal rain is dangerous." Before the alien could answer, Mike's radio crackled with reports from other crash sites around the globe. The situation was becoming clear. These weren't invaders. They were refugees from what appeared to be a massive navigation error. "Dr. Chen, this is Colonel Rodriguez at NORAD," came a voice through Sarah's satellite phone. "We've got similar situations worldwide. The visitors appear to be in genuine distress, and their technology suggests they're not hostile. They're asking for asylum, not demanding surrender." Sarah looked at the alien she was treating, who was now staring in amazement at Mike casually drinking coffee from a thermos in the drizzling rain. "What's your name?" she asked gently. "I am Navigation Officer Zelf 4 of the Thalorian Colonial Fleet," the alien replied through its translator. "We came to establish peaceful relations with your species, but we did not understand. Your world is impossible." "Impossible how?" Sarah helped Zelf 4 into a portable shelter they'd brought, watching as the alien's color immediately shifted to a healthier blue once protected from the rain. Your atmospheric density alone should crush most life forms. The electrical activity in your sky produces energy discharges that could power our cities. The temperature variations across your planet range from what we consider absolute zero to furnace-like conditions. Yet you live here naturally. Mike joined them in a shelter, shaking rain from his jacket. You should see us in August, he chuckled. This is just a light drizzle. Zeltfor's color shifted again, this time to what Sarah was learning indicated distress. You consider this minor weather. Our colony pods landed in your various climatic zones. The reports are disturbing. Sarah's satellite phone buzzed with updates from around the world. In the Sahara, human rescue teams had found Thylaurian colonists who had shut down their life support systems because they thought their equipment was malfunctioning. The temperature readings were so high they assumed it was an error. Local Tuareg guides were currently teaching them how to use shade and conserve water. From Antarctica, the report was equally surreal. A Thylaurian science team had landed near McMurdo Station and was convinced they had crashed on a frozen moon. The human researchers there were sharing hot soup and explaining how penguins thrived in conditions the aliens considered unsurvivable. Another transmission followed. Colony Pod 15 to Fleet Command. We've set down in what appears to be a desert, but the temperature readings must be malfunctioning. The scanner shows 50 degrees Celsius in the shade, but there are humans outside working without protective suits. They're drinking hot liquids in this heat. Grix activated the fleet-wide communications. All colony pods, report your status immediately. The responses painted a picture of absolute horror. Colony Pod 3 had landed in something called the Amazon rainforest, where every plant seemed designed to kill, and the humidity was so high their equipment was failing. Colony Pod 18 reported landing in a place called Siberia, where the temperature was so low that their heating systems couldn't keep up, yet they could see human settlements thriving. But the most disturbing report came from Colony Pod 22. Fleet Command, we've made contact with the local humans. They approached our crash site within minutes. Sir, they're trying to help us. They'd brought something called hot coffee and sandwiches. They seem concerned about our well-being and keep asking if we need medical attention. Commander, they're treating our invasion as a rescue situation. Nala 7 looked up from her console with wide eyes. Sir, I've been monitoring human communications. They're not mobilizing their military. Instead, they're organizing humanitarian aid. Something called the Red Cross is coordinating relief efforts for our stranded visitors. Through the main viewer, Grix watched a human aircraft approach their flagship. It was primitive by galactic standards, held aloft by rotating blades that seemed impossibly fragile. Yet it flew steadily through atmospheric conditions that were shredding their advanced vessels. Incoming transmission from the human aircraft, the communications officer announced. A voice filled the bridge, speaking in calm, measured tones. Unknown vessels, this is Dr. Sarah Chen with the International Contact Protocol Team. We've detected your ships in distress. Are you in need of assistance? We have emergency shelters prepared and medical teams standing by. Urix stared at the communication system in bewilderment. They want to help us. Sir, Nala 7 added quietly. I've been analyzing their planetary database. Humans regularly engage in activities they call extreme sports. They intentionally leap from great heights with only fabric sheets, race vehicles at deadly speeds, and climb vertical rock faces without safety equipment. For fun, sir. They do these things for fun. The fleet commander felt his exoskeleton begin to shake. They had come to establish a colony on what they thought was a peaceful garden world. Instead, they had stumbled into a realm where the dominant species treated lethal conditions as recreational activities and responded to invasion attempts with offers of hot beverages. Colony Pod 9 reporting. Another transmission crackled through. The local humans have invited us to something called a barbecue. They're cooking food over open flames in outdoor temperatures that should be fatal. Sir, They're wearing minimal clothing and appear to be enjoying themselves. One human child just pet a four-legged creature they called a dog that's larger than our security personnel. Urix looked around his bridge at his terrified crew. They were supposed to be the advanced civilization bringing culture and technology to primitive beings. Instead, they were struggling to survive in conditions that humans considered a pleasant day outside. Fleet Command, came another transmission. This is Colony Pod 31. We've landed near a human settlement called Denver. The atmospheric pressure is so low we can barely function, but the humans here are engaging in something called hiking in even higher altitudes. They do this carrying heavy packs for recreation. Sir, I think we need to reconsider our assessment of this species. Through his biosuit's filters, Urix could smell the acrid scent of fear pheromones from his crew. Outside the viewport, he watched human aircraft moving easily through atmospheric conditions that had disabled half his fleet. Below, he could see lights from human cities, millions of beings living and thriving in what was essentially a planetary-scale death trap. Sir, Nella 7 said softly, I found the origin of our classification error. There was a data entry mistake in the colonial archives. Someone accidentally transposed the digits. Earth was never Garden World Class 2. It's always been Deathworld Class 15, and somehow, impossibly, it produced a species that not only survives here, but considers it home. Emma took the alien by the hand and led it to the local park, where children were climbing structures, swinging from bars, and sliding down slopes that would challenge most galactic species' mobility. We built these so kids can play safely while still having adventures, Emma explained seriously. My mom says playing is how we learn to be strong. Zelt 4 watched human children casually performing feats of agility and strength that impressed even adult Phylorians. You train your young for survival through play. We don't really think of it as training, Emma said, hanging upside down from the monkey bars. It's just fun. As the Phylorian fleet departed, now accompanied by human ambassadors, they carried with them more than just survival techniques. They carried an understanding of what made humanity special, not just their ability to survive in extreme conditions, but their capacity to find joy, beauty, and opportunity in any environment. The galaxy would never look at Deathworlds the same way again. More importantly, they would never underestimate the species that had turned the ultimate hostile environment into a home, and then had the audacity to call it beautiful. In his final report, Fleet Commander Rix wrote, Earth remains classified as Deathworld Class 15. However, I recommend adding a new designation, Human World. Approach with wonder, not caution. These beings have achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They have proven that there is no environment too hostile for life to flourish, given enough determination.